Good afternoon. This is Fight for Flight. You can watch us on YouTube. You can listen in on Spotify. You can follow along on your favorite social media platforms. I'm your host, David Hobson, and however you may be listening, I appreciate you making us a part of your day. What's up, everybody? We have an exciting show for you today. I want to start the show by just congratulating Gannon Buhr and Holyn Handley on winning the Discraft Great Lakes Open 2024. They were absolutely phenomenal. This was not a tournament that was lost by a player. This was a tournament where the two winners went out and dominated the field, and it was absolutely electric. We're also going to be talking about last week's tournament predictions. I made a few predictions. We're going to talk about how I did. We're going to be checking out some of the key shots and highlights from this weekend, and then talk about a few unexplained decisions for DNF. I've had two different women withdraw from the tournament, and we're going to be talking about that in Disc Golf News. And then we have a special guest interview today. We have two-time Daytona 500 winner, avid disc golfer, is going to be joining us today on the show to discuss his career as a pro athlete and then how that translates into disc golf. So with that being said, let's dive into a segment that I like to call the good, the bad, and the ugly. So let's talk about the good. Gannon Buhr was absolutely phenomenal. He didn't have a hot start in round one, really climbed the ladder on Friday and Saturday, and gave himself the ability to cruise to a 5 under par victory on Sunday, which most people would have assumed that 5 under par wouldn't win it on the final day. But he had a lead, and it just didn't matter. The man was cruising. He played extremely well. And essentially, I think he won the tournament on Saturday. Ricky was 2 shots back going into Sunday, and I think that just gave him just enough cushion to where he just never looked back. So let's listen to his post-round interview.
Well, Gannon, elite plus sweep is complete. How does it feel?
Unreal, incredible. I didn't think it was possible. Absolutely unbelievable, and especially, it didn't really end how I wanted to that round. Obviously, I got the win. Was a little scarier than I wanted it to be, but still got the W, and that's what matters. And to go 4-0 this year in elite pluses is absolutely crazy. And I think it's just a good building block to hopefully earning Player of the Year. That's been one of my long-time goals. To have 6 wins this season is incredible, and 5 of them being 4-round tournaments. It's just been a grueling season, that's for sure.
So now let's talk about a few of the ladies. Holyn Handley absolutely dominated the FPO field on Saturday and Sunday, actually. It was amazing to watch her do this. She struggled sometimes with her mental state when she has pressure on her. And the fact of the matter is, she just never looked back on Sunday. She threw amazing shots. She really put together a dominant round, really never took her foot off the gas either. A lot of times when you watch players that haven't won a lot of tournaments up to this point, what you're going to see is that when they get into a spot where they are winning, they kind of take their foot off the gas and they start playing defense. And there is a time to lay up, and she did that a couple of times. But the fact of the matter is she kept her foot on the gas and she played her style of game and just destroyed the FPO field on Saturday and Sunday. She shot 10 down, which is a course record on Saturday, to put her in position to where she had a few shots in a cushion lead going into Sunday. So let's check out one of the tee shots that she threw to slam the door on Kristin Tattar on Sunday.
Play. Get in.
This is a very big win for Holyn Handley. Not only because it's an Elite Plus event, but also because it's her sponsor's event. Discraft is hosting this event, and she wins a Discraft event right in front of her bosses. It kind of gets her some street cred. It reinforces the understanding that they really got a deal when they signed her. She is an amazing disc golfer. I think that she's the only disc golfer on the FPO Tour who has the game to consistently play with Kristin Tattar. I think that she has the ability to beat Kristin when Kristin is playing at her best. And I think that she's the only FPO player on tour who really has the ability to beat Kristin when she is at her best. So let's talk about Ohn Scoggins. Ohn had a 4th place finish, but one of the things that really stuck out to me throughout the week was the positivity from Scoggins. She had a lot of things go haywire. This course is not built for her and her style of game. She had very positive body language. She threw a shot out of bounds. She would get through that, maybe express a little frustration, and then she would just go right to the next shot. She was celebrating the little wins. When putts would go in or when she would throw an upshot that honestly she throws all the time, she would celebrate those things, kind of get the momentum going again. And she was singing down the fairway, right? She really has an elite mental game, and that really, really kept her in this more than I think her game did this weekend, because things were starting to snowball and she would just stop it. She just was so positive. She just come back and throw a great shot. Scoggins is an example of what your mental game is supposed to be. Luke Taylor. Luke Taylor played some amazing disc golf this week. It was honestly, I won't say shocking because we've seen Luke play well before. He's a big arm. This is his style, of course, for sure. But the fact of the matter is that Luke Taylor was making circle 3 putts. And obviously, circle 3 is not a thing. So beyond 66 feet, he was making putts consistently throughout the week. He also had 2 shots that he threw from the fairway, probably 300-foot shots that hit the basket and just didn't stay in. So he had 2 of those throughout the week as well. He just played extremely well, and he was fun to watch. And sometimes when I watch disc golf, some people are very good, but they're not necessarily entertaining. Luke is entertaining. He is so much fun to watch, and I think that he's got a very, very bright future ahead of him in the MPO. Also, he finished 6th for the tournament. I thought that was kind of interesting. It's not that I thought that he couldn't do that, but the fact of the matter is that a 6th place finish for someone as early in his career as Luke Taylor is, I thought that it was an incredible performance by him. He did a great job. So now let's talk about the bad. Kristen played a very solid tournament, but the fact of the matter is that I think that she lost the tournament on Saturday. Holes 16 and 17 on Saturday, she's on the lead card. Holyn is on the chase card, has already finished, shooting the hot round and the course record. Kristen goes out of bounds on her tee shot on 16, and out of bounds on her tee shot on 17, and out of bounds again on her approach shot on 17. And this was a turning point in the tournament. She tried to get aggressive, and honestly, it just didn't pay off for her. And so that was one of the most horrible things that happened in the tournament, and honestly, one of the most unexpected things that happened in the tournament as well. Also, Ricky Wysocki goes from a near ace to a very, very punishing par that honestly ended his chances on Sunday to beat Gannon Buhr. Let's check out the footage of this incredible shot.
Actually, they're playing with Mekla as well. Wysocki. He doesn't like it. Oh! The Wysocki reaction.
What an incredible shot for Rick. This was a moment of almost perfection and then immediate heartbreak, because if this shot goes in, Gannon really has the pressure put on him. Ricky is just, a couple shots back and playing extremely well. Gannon is feeling the pressure. He even said that obviously in his interview. So this is an opportunity for Rick to really put some pressure on Gannon and kind of maybe induce a malfunction in Gannon's backhand, or make him throw a shot that he's really not comfortable with throwing. And the fact of the matter is that he went from a possible ace to missing that birdie putt and then ultimately taking a par. And that par essentially ended his opportunities to win the Great Lakes Open 2024. Nicolas Antela missed the cut. I thought that was kind of big news. We don't see this very often. Nicolas Antela is a very consistent MPO player. He plays extremely well. I think that he is going to be winning majors for a very long time. His game is elite. And I think that right now, other than Simon Lizotte, I think that he is the top European player. And he ended up missing the cut. Very shocking. Also, Paul McBeth couldn't really get it going. He finished 15 under for the tournament, but that's 17 shots off the lead. There's a big, I would say, difference between the top 5 people in this tournament and then the rest of the field. And Paul McBeth just really couldn't get it open. And this is kind of odd because Paul has won the Great Lakes Open back-to-back years, 2018, 2019. And I think that maybe he just wasn't playing his game, but also I think it is kind of a testament that this is a young guy's course. This is for somebody with big arms that are, they're athletic, they're throwing shots that other people can't really throw. Those are the people who did well this week, and I think that Paul is really not designed to play this specific course against these big arms. Now let's talk about the ugly. Eagle McMahon went from a favorite to win to finishing in 8th place, 18 under for the tournament. This is just unbelievable. He won this back-to-back years and then finished second last year behind Simon Lizotte. I think everyone had him picked to be at least top 5 in this tournament, and he just never got it going. And I thought it was very disappointing for the fans, but also very disappointing for Eagle McMahon, as I'm sure that he was very dissatisfied with his performance. Also, Jessica Weiss missed a very standard putt to make the cut. And it was just really hard to watch. She lined it up. You could see the nerves. You could see the unsurety on her face. And she just ended up missing about an 18-footer to get her into the weekend. And so I know that there's bright days ahead for Jessica Weiss as well. She's played very, very well at times. I'm looking forward to her kind of figuring out that putting and getting back into the mix of the FPO field. So just a quick reminder, if you are enjoying the show, please take a moment and hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out a lot. It's a small gesture, but the fact of the matter is it keeps us connected with you guys, our listeners. It also helps us be able to leverage our listeners and our views and subscribers with potential sponsors for our show and be able to bring in money for the show, and that helps us stay in business. So with that being said, thank you so much for your support, and let's keep growing this amazing disc golf community together. So we actually have in studio a great friend of mine. He is a 2-time Daytona 500 winner. He is a jackman for RFK Racing and an avid disc golfer. Guy's got a big arm. He can sling some plastic for an amateur. This is Nick Patterson.
How's it going? Thanks for having me on. Like you said, we've been friends for a long time, and I certainly don't expect to always be along for the ride on stuff that you do and vice versa, but I'm happy to be here, and it's like I always take it as a privilege and an honor to participate in the stuff that you embark on, so thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's just good to have you on. I think that out of all the people I know, you're one of the most accomplished in your career. I've been pretty impressed by just how things have unfolded for you. It's kind of honestly been feast or famine, it seems like, for you.
Yep.
It's very interesting, but I feel like it's like that for a lot of people. But you've kind of really turned a corner, I would say, in the last 5 years or so. So it's been really cool. So I pretty much know your entire story, but for the listeners, I know that you're not originally from this country, and I thought maybe you could talk a little bit about that, and then just talk about your NASCAR career.
Yeah, so I was born in another country. I was born in Bucharest, Romania, and kind of grew up there, stealing, killing to stay alive, until I was finally adopted when I was 18 months old, 8 months old.
Basically, I wouldn't call you a Jacques Cousteau, but you made it over, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I was very blessed to have been adopted by a great American family. They've been absolutely instrumental in a lot of my endeavors and the support that they've given, and the life lessons and the wisdom and the knowledge and the resources that they've provided to help me chase dreams and aspirations has been really a blessing. And I look back and see all those things, and it really is a testament to how important a good, strong family is whenever you're doing those things. And it certainly helps. It's not that it's impossible without it, for sure, because you have a lot of people that have really come up from a rough beginning and have turned it around. But I will say it's definitely helped, and it's definitely expedited a lot of learning experiences that you don't have to do the hard way. So that's been a real blessing to have that, and huge shout out to them for doing it for me, but also for 5 others, of us. There's 6 of us total that were all adopted from different families, so it's been cool.
Yeah, your parents are amazing people. The thing I remember most about coming over to your house is just the kindness that I experienced there, and then how functional it was, although there were so many kids.
Right,
I also came from a fairly large family, but I thought your mom did a pretty good job of making the house run.
Yeah, she did, and just one more pat on her back is we were all homeschooled. So there's 6 of us that went through the Patterson Day School, and my mom was principal and teacher and judge, jury, and executioner.
Yeah, you have to be when you have that many.
Yeah, and we all turned out great. We all have had a lot of. I will say that there's a downside to homeschooling. The homeschooling downside is the athletic side of things, the resources for athletics and whatnot. But there's a huge upside on time that you get back because you're not bound by learning at the rate of the slowest person in the class. You can learn at your own speed. So if you're capable of getting your work done from 8 to 11, then you're done for the day. And then you can go work a job and learn what life is like earlier than, graduating from college.
Absolutely.
So, but I think that was a huge help, and that helped me learn work ethic very early on.
So you're talking about the athletics portion of your life kind of being a little bit inhibited because you didn't go through a traditional education system. Kind of share how you got into athletics and then, ultimately how that became a profession for you.
Well, we played sports together. We started off with the homeschool organization that was in our county. We played together there, and that in and of itself there's plenty of stories in that, and we've talked about that a lot to different people. But
that's an entire episode of its own. We may get into that one day.
So we both started out playing there, and then I had aspirations to continue playing into college and then beyond college, and so summer, spring, fall, winter was baseball. And so that's basically all I did was baseball and swim because it was a good cross sport for rotator cuff and whatnot. And I was actually very good at swimming. I was naturally better at swimming than I was at baseball. So I had to work a lot harder at baseball to be good at it. Ended up in college to walk on. Like I said, with homeschool sports, we didn't have a very good network or way of getting ranked on the radar that scouts are looking at. So the regional tournaments and the state tournaments and whatnot, we didn't have any of that. So we did go to some tournaments, but it wasn't one of those things where we had top tier instruction and equipment and weight room. We didn't have any of the stuff that you generally need to progress at a rate that puts you in a place where scouts are piqued with interest for your ability. So I ended up walking on to Liberty University and played for about a day, which was basically the walk-on. And then the coach had originally told me that I had made the spot, and then came to pick up equipment and whatnot. And then I was told that they had decided to go with a recruit instead. And so I ended up transferring to a school down in Texas and was there for 2.5 years, played a little bit, but not a lot, and then transferred back to Winston-Salem State, Winston-Salem was around where I lived, and so that's why I say back to, but ended up there and played a little, but not a lot, and then was replaced by a recruit there as well, and the football coach picked me up, and this was the first time I had played football, but the coach was very adamant about wanting me to come out and give it a shot, so I did, and then I met the head athletic trainer of the whole athletic department, and we became good friends, and I didn't know this until recently, actually, and this is going to be a good story, because I don't know if I've told you this or not, but he was the one that suggested that I endeavor on this NASCAR career as a pit crew guy, and so he got a call, and apparently he was very well entwined with the NASCAR community. He was an athletic trainer for the Infield Care Center. They had every time we go to a track, there's an infield care center for when the drivers wreck, or if somebody's got like a tweak in their neck or something going on with a sponsor, or anybody that has access to the infield, and they treat that. Anybody that comes, they take care of, and they got a really good reputation for handling all those little tweaks and aches and pains that sponsors and drivers and crew would come with. And so he was very well intertwined with the community, and I didn't know this until recently. I just thought it was like a random call that, because NASCAR teams do reach out to universities to try to find athletes that are maybe not getting drafted and want to give this a shot and become a pit crew athlete. So I thought it was that situation, but in reality, he just was very intertwined, and somebody from Roush Fenway at the time had called and asked, and the only reason that he recommended me was not because of what he had seen with me playing baseball, which was very little because he was more involved with the football side. But it wasn't from what he saw with me playing football, obviously, because it was my first time playing football. And so there was a little bit of robotic action going on there because I was thinking through everything. And as I had learned it, I was trying to do it correctly. It wasn't muscle memory. It wasn't automatic yet.
Sure.
But the track coach had a cookout that all the athletes were invited to down on the field. And we were out there. And then after the cookout, we were playing Ultimate Frisbee. And he said when he watched me play Ultimate Frisbee, he said like that was some of the most athletic stuff I've ever seen. And I was looking at it and wondering like, where has all this been? You know?
Okay.
And so, so just
so NASCAR by way of Ultimate Frisbee.
Yeah.
Not even competitive Ultimate Frisbee, just at a cookout Ultimate Frisbee.
Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah, but I mean, like this was a cookout with like a bunch of Division II athletes, so there's a lot of athleticism here. There's not just like a bunch of average Joes and then one guy that's like these are a bunch of athletes, and somehow I guess because I had played a lot of Ultimate Frisbee before. We were intramural champions at Liberty. I was an intramural champion at Laterno, where I went in Texas, and then they didn't have it at Winston, so I ended up playing just for fun, and he saw it, and I guess it was loose enough and athletic enough that he said, that's your ticket. So
yeah, that's what they're looking for. Honestly, that's a wild story, but glad it worked out. I saw you early on in your career kind of going through the grind of the NASCAR pit crew world, you learning a lot of new things, kind of making your bones down there in the pit shop and doing all of those things. How did you get from entry level, you go in, do your tryout, how do you get from there to signing a big deal, kind of where you are today at the pinnacle of your NASCAR career?
I would say the short answer to that question is hard work, attention to detail, and just being good to people that are there to help. A lot of times I think people like in the parts department or the guys that put the cars together and tear them down when they come back from the racetrack, those guys are looking for people that are invested in the whole process. They don't want you to just be invested in the athlete side of it, because there is a little, I would say it's less now than it used to be, but there is a little bit of not animosity, but just like there's an understanding that the pit athletes get paid better than like all the mechanics, and they spend a lot more hours working on the cars than we do. So and we are in and out, a lot of times in half a day. So there's that understanding, and so in the spirit of just being respectful, they just would like that, being that you're there half the time, probably even less than half, that you just be respectful. And so
100%.
And it's not like they are asking it, but you can tell that if you're respectful to them, you treat them well, you try to help any way you can, and everything that you're told to do, you do to the best of your ability, that goes a long way. And so I think that in and of itself was the main reason that I'm still there. But there's a lot of hard work that goes into it, and we can kind of really dissect whatever you want to, but I would say those three things are pretty much the main reason that I was able to have a shot, and that the shot turned into what it is now.
I know that you've obviously had a lot of success in your NASCAR career, and I know that you've found disc golf as well, and this is kind of a staple of your recreational activity at this point.
Yeah.
And actually, for those of you that don't know, Nick's the guy that got me into disc golf as well.
That's right.
And that's a wild story. We'll get into that in a different episode as well. But I know you're an avid disc golfer, and talking about learning, I know you're constantly wanting to better yourself, constantly wanting to improve your form. Who are the 2 or 3 people that are on tour that kind of influences your personal game? Who do you look to try to learn?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I would say that I probably go back and forth, mainly because, like we've talked about, there are anomalies on the tour, people that are just not only physically gifted with certain lengths of arms and legs and physique, and then also the skill that maybe came naturally or that they've developed with that frame that maybe no one else can repeat that doesn't have similar attributes. So with that being said, I do enjoy watching like Anthony Barella. I'm 6'3", so he's a little bit taller than I am, I think, but I try to watch guys that are about my size because, smaller guys like Eagle, I probably can't do what he does. Not a lot of people can do what he does. But I like Ricky Wysocki. Obviously, he's a great one to watch. I watch him a lot for forehand. His backhand has some interesting nuances to it that we've talked about. But,
Yep.
I mean, Macbeth is a great example to look at for backhand, in my opinion. And I've even looked at Big Germ a little bit for forehand because for whatever reason, I have a very extensive baseball background, but for whatever reason, the forehand is really difficult for me. And I don't really know why, because you would think that I've got all the shoulder muscle and the muscle memory of throwing something that way, or close to that way, close enough that it should. Most baseball players generally have a good forehand right out the gate, and then they become forehand dominant because
Sure,
it's just natural. But I have not had. I've been very much a natural backhander, and I even started playing right-handed when I first started playing disc golf.
really, I
Yeah.
did not know this.
I started playing right-handed, and then I realized that a right-hand backhand and a left-hand forehand is essentially the same thing, just shorter. So
Yeah.
I switched up to being left-hand backhand and left-hand forehand. So, but yeah, I would say Macbeth, Barella, and Wysocki are probably the three that I look at the most, and I would say they probably influenced the way that I throw the disc the most.
Yeah, I think sometimes when I look at people, what they're capable of doing, I personally try to take the people what their game is more of a science and it's not an art.
Sure.
Because one of the things that I've kind of figured out is that some people, the style that they use, the form that they use, it requires an insane amount of feel just to be able to produce that and replicate that consistently. And for amateur disc golfers, one of the primary things that I would say outside of practice, obviously get in the reps, is try to take something that is replicatable, that is not necessarily the touchiest shot that you can throw, and then throw that shot.
Sure.
I think that's how you get your score down if you're trying to play amateur disc golf. And, I actually just had this conversation about a forehand. I like to ride forehands in on Annie into the ground for approach shots. And the reason I do that is that if I ride them in on the ground and skip them to the basket, then I don't have to worry about when it fades or when it comes out.
Sure.
So it just dummy proofs the process, gets me, into a putt. And so I thought that that's kind of a big part of it. I've taken a lot of athletes to media in my career. I'm a security guy. I travel with athletes all over the world. And generally when I take them to media after games, matches, whatever the case may be, they typically talk a lot about things they did before the match. So, the interviewer will ask them something about like, why do you think it went so well today? Or you were struggling today with whatever you were doing. Why do you think that is? And they'll generally cite something like, I didn't sleep well last night, or I got up this morning and I felt great. I did this and that. They're talking about their routines. As a pro athlete, why do you think that's the thing that they focus on? And then what are some habits and routines that you use as well?
Yeah, I would say the reason that they focus on those things is because they're part of the process that gets them ready to perform. And if you don't do the process correctly, or you miss a step in the general normal process, then it doesn't mean that you can't perform that day. It is just a way of knowing that in the past, when you've hit all the check marks, that you generally will perform at a high level and you don't have to compensate for anything. So like if you don't have a good night's sleep, then okay, I've got to be a little bit extra focused today because I feel a little bit sluggish. I feel a little tired. I may need to focus a little bit more on just being explosive, just be and attacking. Whereas if you got a full night's sleep, you don't think about it. Your body just feels really, really poppy. Like that's the word that I use whenever I feel like my legs have fully recovered from a weekend at the track, and it's usually on Tuesday or Wednesday where I feel like I have the most spring in my legs. But I would say that generally there's a process that every athlete that performs at a high level figures out. This is what I do when I perform well, and so the process is what we focus on, and the result generally takes care of itself. And that's another sports psychology tip or focal point is that a lot of the focus is on the process. How does the process feel? Like there's a lot of emphasis on visualizing what you're doing, not the result, but just how does the jack feel in your hand? Like how does the car come in? When the car comes in, is it coming in fast? Is it coming in slow? You know, are you reading the car as it comes to a stop and you attack the right side? You know, when you're running around the car, how does the pavement feel? Is it slick? Is it grippy? When you jack the car up, is this particular setup? Is there pressure on one spring or another that's allowing you to feel less weight than normal, or is it heavier than normal? And you're visualizing these things, and for me, I did that in baseball, and it helped a lot with my swing. But I do it now that I'm in NASCAR, and I feel like it helps me really stay in tune with what I need my body to do. And I've already gone through the process of a successful pit stop and the process that yields that result so many times in my mind that when I do it, it doesn't feel like I haven't, like if I haven't done it since Sunday and we practice on Tuesday, I don't feel like I missed a day, because I'm constantly looking at film. I'm constantly going through my mind about what it looks like when I do it right.
So do you think that if something happens, you can't practice, maybe they cancel practice, maybe it rains, something happens at the track, how big are your visualization reps? Like, what do you think the ROI is of actually taking the time to, maybe you're in, and I'm saying this for disc golfers, so sometimes we're outside, it's raining, we can't play, something's going on, there's a tournament at our local course, whatever it is, we can't play this weekend, but we still want to get better. Is it worth doing the mental repetitions and the visualization at home? Or, what do you think the ROI is for that?
Yeah, I think that the return on that is huge, and I can't remember the exact name, and I can look it up, but I think it was somebody with the last name Neesmith, but they were a Vietnam vet, and prior to being imprisoned as a prisoner of war, they were a golfer. They were playing. They were shooting about a 95 on their local course, and then they were in prison over about 7.5 years, I think. And during that time, he would play his home course while he was in this 5x5x5 solitary cell, and he would just play his home course. And he would envision the way the club feels in his hand. He would reach down, put a tee in the tee box. He would take his shot. He'd watch it go down the fairway. He would envision where it lands. He would take his tee up. He'd walk down the fairway. He'd take his next club. He'd make his approach shot. And he played his home course over and over and over again. And then whenever he finally was released, he obviously hadn't played in 7 years. He's been in a 5x5x5 cell, and he goes to his home course to play, and he shoots 20 strokes better than he did before he was in prison.
Wow.
So
that's insane.
There's a lot of studies out there. If you want to get into the nerd out on it a little bit, there's a lot of studies out there that talk about the benefits of envisioning what you're doing. And I think that I don't like quirky things that people do. And you watch some quirky things that people do on the tee pad before they take their shot. And I think some of it can just be burning a little bit of time to envision when the disc leaves your hand, what's it doing? I'm releasing it on this angle. It's coming out of my hand. It feels like this when it leaves my hand. It's going down the fairway, making this shape. It's landing in this spot. And all that can happen in a matter of a few seconds. And so I think some of those things, while it looks like it's just their thing to do, I really do think that some of them are visualizing the shot before they ever throw it.
Yeah, I think so as well. And just getting your body into a place where it feels like it's the right time to go. I think for me, especially with my forehand, I feel that very much. I feel like there's like a mental cue. Something goes off in my head and it says now, and then I go. And I think I totally agree. I 100% experience that visualization in those brief seconds before I throw.
Yeah, and I think it's important to be able, like the switch you talk about, it's time to go. I think it's important to be able to turn that switch off after you've made the shot, and you're not checking out of what you're doing. You're not checking out, like for me, I'm not checking out of the race whenever a pit stop's over, but you can't function at the level of focus that you need to focus at for the pit stop, for the disc golf shot that you're trying to be incredibly precise with. You can't have that level of focus for 3-4 hours and expect that you will be able to hold that level for that entire time. You have to be able to turn that switch back off and then relax and let the heart rate come down, let the like enjoyment of what you're doing kind of sink in. And then whenever it's time to get back, the caution comes out, it's time to do another stop. You flip that switch, get back up on the wall, and you get locked in. You know where all the cars around you are. You know who you're pitting with. You know what adjustments are called. You know what's different about this stop than the last stop. And you just get locked in. And then the stop's over and you turn that switch back off. And I think it's the same way in disc golf. If you stay at that high level of focus, you generally will see that maybe you play really well on the front nine, but you don't on the back nine because you can't hold it for that long, and I think that being able to turn that switch on and turn it back off is a really important part about being able to be consistent over the course of a round or a tournament or just longevity in the sport in general.
Absolutely. I know that you've had a reasonable amount of success in your career, and I know there's a lot of hard skills that come along with that. What are some of the soft skills that you think are some of the reasons that you've been successful as well? And then what pieces of advice would you have for the listeners to be able to be successful in whatever they're doing? Because obviously they may not be doing the same thing you are, but maybe some general advice for their careers as well.
I would say I'd go back to the attention to detail portion. I think that if you're going to do something, the thing that is the investment on that thing that you're doing is the time that you're giving to do it. So if you want to get the return on that investment and maximize that return, then the detail that you put into that effort and the amount of effort that you put into that is going to dictate how much you get back on that,
Yeah, absolutely. I understand that people have different goals. People have different things that they want to do. Some people live a life where their primary concern is getting back to recreation. I have a lot of friends like that. So they're doing something, whether that's their job or even if they're getting called to help out a friend move some furniture or whatever the case may be. It's always, hey, I want to get this done so I can get back to X, Y, or Z. And I know for myself, a big shift happened in my life when I stopped living like that. And I know it's not for everybody. I think that you have to have a reasonable amount of stress tolerance to demand things of yourself. And so some people handle that a little better than others. I think their proclivity to that is a little bit different. But when I stopped living for the weekend and I stopped living for the recreation and I just said, hey, I don't want to have to take a vacation. I want my life to be so good I don't need one. I want to win on a daily basis. I want to find my purpose on a daily basis and not just after 5 p.m. That was a big switch for me.
Yeah. That's huge. I would say to be in a mindset where your life is so good that you don't need a vacation. And that means to me that's not necessarily saying that it's so good. It just means that you have such a good balance that you don't get to the point where you're just mentally and physically drained to the point that you have to pay to go on a vacation to recover, to then come back and work some more so you can save to go on the vacation again.
If you know me and you know my wife Jennifer, you can ask her at the end of any vacation, I just can't wait to get back to work. and it's the way that I'm wired. Yeah. I love what I'm doing. I can't just lay on the beach. She can lay on the beach. I'm finding somebody to play volleyball with. I don't care if we got to flip like seashells or whatever it is. I got to make a competition out of it. We got to make this work. And so I definitely understand that, and I feel that inside. But I think that people have their own process. They have their own goals. And I think that you have a right to choose those goals. Individually. But I think if you want to get to the next level, 100% believe what you just said. This is Nick Patterson. He's a man that cares about the details. He's a man that connects with everybody. And ultimately, he's a man that is winning. So let's talk about last week's predictions. I made some predictions, and I got some of them right. I got some of them wrong. Let's dive right in. I predicted that Eagle McMahon would finish in the top 3 in the 2024 Discraft Great Lakes Open. The fact of the matter is that just didn't happen. Eagle never got it going. He is literally built for this course. He has a massive backhand. He has a massive forehand. He putts on an elite level. I thought that he would be able to go out and get it done, at least be in the mix on Sunday, and he ended up finishing 8th and a good ways off the lead as well. And so that just didn't work out. I also predicted that Ricky Wysocki finished in the top 5. and Ricky absolutely rose to the occasion. Played extremely well, was in contention all the way up until I think hole 16 or hole 17 on Sunday. He just played a phenomenal round and ended up finishing, I believe, third. Also, I predicted that Anthony Barela would kind of rise from the middle of the pack and finish in the top 10. And I predicted this because he has a massive forehand. There are some of the holes at Toboggan are set up for big forehanders. And so there's a lot of, the margin for error is much larger with a big forehand on some of these holes than trying to throw that backhand turnover that, say, an Isaac Robinson throws. The fact of the matter is that Anthony Barela just stayed out of bounds the entire tournament. If you go back and you look at his scorecards, he just struggled to stay in bounds, and ultimately that cost him contention for the top 10. So now let's talk about the ladies. I predicted that Kristen Tatar win the tournament. She was in contention up until, I guess, the 15th, 16th hole on Sunday. You know, she's only a couple strokes back. She ended up finishing third behind Holyn Handley and also Haley King. But the fact of the matter is that she just didn't quite get it done this week. She was out of bounds too much. She didn't get it done this week. And honestly, it was just the out of bounds strokes that ended up getting her. Owen Scoggins, I said that she was going to finish in the top 3, and she finished fourth, a shot behind Kristen. And I thought that she played a really good tournament. This is not a course that's set up for Owen. This is not a course that is set up for people who don't necessarily have a lot of distance. And Owen Scoggins really played tough and gritty the entire time. And I thought that she did a great job finishing fourth. So one spot off of my prediction. And then I also predicted that Missy Gannon was going to finish in the top 8. She finished 7th. She stayed in the fairway. She did a great job this weekend of playing some very good disc golf. Absolutely nailed the prediction for Missy Gannon. So now let's talk about some disc golf news. If you were paying attention after the round on Friday and before the round on Saturday, Paige Pierce and Lisa Ficus withdrew from the Great Lakes Open. And this was kind of shocking because they were playing fairly well. It wasn't like they were playing badly. Their 47th and 48th finishes were just because of the withdrawal. So they defaulted to the back of the pack when they withdrew. But the fact of the matter is that there were some things that were going on physically for one of them and familial for the other. So let's talk about Lisa Ficus. So Lisa Ficus withdrew due to an injury. So she posted that she had torn a muscle around her rotator cuff and that she also had a rib that was displaced. So she put that out on Saturday. Then she puts another post out and says, update. It turned out to be way more of a rib injury than a shoulder injury. I'm recovering well. DNF. I had to make a tough decision to quit due to an injury. Blew out a lower rotator cuff muscle on hole 15. After the round, I immediately got some hard, deep muscle work from Sarah DeMar and Jennifer Allen, as well as a rib pop back in. So thankful for these two. The pain has gone down a lot, but I'm still super sore, and I won't be throwing for about a week. Only stretching, massages, and icing. I was having a pretty good round. I threw my second shot on 15 and immediately screamed in pain and grabbed my throwing shoulder. I made a birdie, but knew my shoulder was hurt. Tried throwing 2 more tee shots on the next holes, but there was no way I could continue, so I told my card I quit after my shot on 17. You know, Lisa has been very competitive in the FPO recently. And so we're looking forward to her getting back, obviously wishing her a speedy recovery for her rib and also for her shoulder. Those rib injuries are not fun. I don't know if you've ever had a dislocated rib or a broken rib, but it is hard to breathe and it's an enormous amount of pain. Our thoughts and prayers are with Lisa Ficus. Paige Pierce also withdrew, and when you're a rock star and you do something controversial, everyone immediately jumps to conclusions. When you're at the top of your game, when you have a fan base, when you have people that are hating on you, people just jump to conclusions. And so a lot of the fans were saying that she withdrew just because she was playing badly. And the fact of the matter was she was, I think, in 12th place when she withdrew. So she wasn't playing that badly. She's still Paige Pierce. But a lot of people jumped to conclusions. But she posted on her Instagram yesterday, and it seems that her grandfather passed away in the middle of the tournament. And so our condolences to Paige Pierce and her family during this time. She obviously has her priorities in order. She's taking care of the family, and best wishes to them during this time. So Kat Merch. Kat Merch is a character. She's always got something funny to say. She has no filter. She has a good time. And that's what I love about watching her. She's highly entertaining. But she had one of the funniest moments on hole 17 on Saturday. Let's check it out.
See you on the lead card tomorrow. Thank you.
Thanks. He's buff.
This is just who Kat Merch is. She throws a shot out of bounds. She throws her next shot, and she is in the frame of mind in a tournament to be able to say something funny, to be able to, kind of lighten the mood for herself and for her card mates. I just thought it was must-see TV. It was so funny that she did something like this. But it just goes to show you guys that if you work out long enough and hard enough, and you go volunteer to be a spotter at your local DGPT event, a player like Kat Merch just might tell you that you're ripped. So let's talk about next week. Next episode is going to be discussing the Green Mountain Championship. This is a big event, and I'm looking forward to reviewing the 2023 results and then making predictions for that event. So we're going to be doing that next week, next Monday. Also, if you have questions, you can submit those in the comments on YouTube. You can DM us, or you can leave it in the comments on our social media platforms. Whatever your preferred one is, we're on there. So if you have something that you want us to talk about, or if you have questions about me or about the show or about anything that we do, you can just leave those comments there and we will absolutely respond to you. That being said, also, don't forget about our disc golf giveaway. We're giving away $1,500 worth of disc golf gear, and all you have to do is go to our website and sign up. It's completely free. I'm going to be running our promo for that giveaway on our social media platforms this week. So if you see that there's also instructions in the promo. But don't forget, it only takes about 30 seconds to be able to sign up. It's absolutely free. It doesn't matter where you are. As long as you are in the United States, that even Alaska and Hawaii, I will ship the gear to you. So it doesn't matter where you are. You can go in and sign up for this and win some sweet disc golf swag. That's all for today's episode of Fight for Flight. Thanks so much for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, check us out on Spotify, and connect with us on social media for daily updates and exclusive content throughout the week.